Partey deal has been like that. But then having said that, we did manage to... I've been on a rant the last few days protecting Man United. I mean, I've been enjoying it. You've been like 6 weeks in negotiations just to pay what they wanted. No, they wanted 70 million euros. They dropped it to 60, and we've got him for 50. Yes, there's 10 million pounds of add-ons, but read what Ornstein said. It's based on performance and success. And the irony on those add-ons is if he's good, plays regularly, and we win big trophies, no one's going to care how much he costs. That's the funny part with fans. Nobody's mentioned Declan Rice's transfer since he signed because he's been that good, and he hasn't won anything yet, and he's been that good in your team. So I don't know. It's one of those things for me where I just feel like some of these deals take time. So look at getting rid. I mean, but you look at it this way. Look at you waited on Eddie Nketiah, and you've ended up getting your 30 million. And yes, you would ideally have liked it done a bit sooner, but I do think we're in an era where every penny matters in these transfers. PSR, FFP. I feel like in the last 2 years, clubs have become really conscious of what... I think it's even conscious of what they can and can't write off. And I think some clubs may have got away with a few bits and pieces. Not cheating, not cooking the books, but bloody hell, we got away with that one. These clubs are getting told no now. I think the Premier League's becoming harsher and harsher on what you can and can't write off as losses. And I think a lot of teams are like, no, we need to balance our books. And the irony is City gets celebrated for being so good at selling as much as they are successful on the pitch. But when other clubs try to do it, suddenly there's almost like from the fans, this attitude of, I don't care about that. Just sell the players, whatever. Get rid of them for £1. It doesn't matter. Just get them out of the team. And then I see the same people on Twitter. Why don't we sell like Man City? Why don't we sell like Chelsea? Well, you got to be fucking patient for that, haven't you? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I just find it so strange that... by the way, Dad, if you're not moaning about City being good sellers, then I think it's fine that you moan that you want to sell things quicker. But you can't praise what City do, but then bemoan your club for trying to act in the same way. I find that all... At the same time, Standard FC motherfuckers, all they state is we should act like the most successful clubs. Every time I see another club or manager trying to act like the successful ones, Standard FC go, but you're not them, don't do it. Which is it? I'm so confused. The internet is fucking weird sometimes. I'm telling you, it's mad.
No, it is weird, man. It is weird. Liverpool and Chelsea and City, to be fair, they've done very, very well in terms of player sales. Arsenal, not so much, if I'm honest. Not so much. Sorry, Nobbins.
I was just going to say, it's definitely the right approach from United because, for how many years have United fans complained about the idea of United tax, for example, when buying players, and now United start adopting an approach of not just going in and paying the first amount, going, well, actually, we're totally willing to walk away from this deal. And as you mentioned, Terry, now you've got Ugarte for slightly less than what, or significantly less than what they initially wanted. And that comes from not having the piss taken out of you and acknowledging that, well, we can just always walk away and go find another option. This is why City often get players for quite good value, because we wanted X player, we couldn't get him, so we move on to another. We wanted Harry Maguire, but we weren't willing to pay 80 million quid. So we move on to Koundé, we weren't willing to pay that money. So we moved on to Ruben Diaz, and you get him for the price you want. So and with that, if you do it over and over and over again, then other clubs aren't going to be able to mess you around. So it might be short-term pain from a United perspective, but long-term, the only way to get out of this United tax perspective, whether buying or selling, is to do the slow and painful approach. But if it works long-term, it works.
Mate, you're absolutely right. Most things worth doing in life are hard, difficult, and they take time. There's very few quick wins in any walk of life. Nothing gets done quickly. And I've had a few... I started off by a nice calm post while I was out walking my dog the other day about the Man United rebuild to a more of a rant yesterday, because it's not even rivals. I kind of get rivals trying to shit on it, trying to undo it. Like most Arsenal fans that I come across at the minute because I put out a tweet today that just kind of listed the signings so far under INEOS. I didn't mention Ten Hag. I've just said this is INEOS in the first phase of the rebuild. They spent 172 million pounds on these players. Rate it out of 10. 600 million has been spent, Terry, not 172 million. Where have INEOS spent 600 million? But this manager's had it, so you can't start the rebuild from now because the manager's been here 2 years. But I'm assessing INEOS's rebuild of the club, and part of that includes keeping the manager. If that fails, that's an element where you look at INEOS and say you didn't get that right. But I can't include the previous poor structured signings that should never have been made, that we overpaid and undersold on, in a horrible structure and culture, and put that against the gym because he wasn't there. And this is, I get rivals doing it, but it's the Man United fans that join in going, yeah, that's so right. We should have much higher expectations. How is our squad not playing better when 600 million has been spent? But INEOS haven't spent that. INEOS are going through a process of undoing that 600 million pound that's been wasted on this current squad. And it's going to take time, but you need to be patient with it. That doesn't mean you can't complain. It doesn't mean there's no expectations. People go, I've said it takes 3 to 4 years to improve. How are you giving Ten Hag 3 or 4 years? I'm not. I'm not. If he doesn't start to improve this team quickly, he can go. But that doesn't mean the rebuild starts again. It's so strange that this, and I think it's because most Man United fans online don't talk about the wider issues at the club properly. Every debate has always been manager in, manager out, player in, player out. That will fix us, as opposed to understanding the issues. And I saw people over the weekend talk about, what's the name of the new Brighton manager? I don't remember his name. I should do, but I don't.
Hecklen. What's his name?
Him. Right?
Yeah. I want to butcher it. Heckler something.
Yeah. I heard people say, well, he's only been in the country a few months. He's a young manager. How do they look better than we do? Because he's gone into a well-run club that for its size and pound for pound is a well-oiled machine with players that are not suffering from PTSD and stress, not having a Frankenstein squad, and a harmonious environment. The same as when Pep went into City in 2007. Was it 17 he joined? Or 16?
16.
16. If he would have joined in the summer of 2009 when the takeover happened, in my humble opinion, as great as Pep is, you're not getting 100 points in his second season. Because the infrastructure and the culture that's been built at City up until 2016 took that amount of time to get there. The problem is this all just gets ignored and ignored and ignored and ignored by Man United fans. And it frustrates me because rivals are meant to do it. The media's kind of meant to do it. But United fans have got to wake up and smell the goddamn coffee. And I think it comes down to small things, as you say, like selling. I think we've sold about £100 million worth of players. And so, it's weird. I've seen Rio do it. I love Rio Ferdinand. Shouldn't have sold Scott McTominay as part of the fabric of the club. He ain't good enough. He's a limited footballer who last year scored a few winning goals. Suddenly, what is he? Zidane. Honestly, it's mind-boggling to me, the mindset of some Man United fans. But anyway, rant over.
I still think he'll be gone. By November, Ten Hag.
He may.
Yeah, I look at it. I just what's happened the last couple of games. There's a couple of people coming in my chat saying, "Oh my God, Man United looks so much better and so much different." And I just don't see any change whatsoever. They bought defenders and still couldn't defend. That's what I saw against Brighton. I mean, they're all on there. De Ligt was on there. Mazraoui was on there. And then they're leaving 3 Brighton lads at the back post. I don't get that. What is going on there? Like, for me, Ten Hag playing Bruno up front. I mean, this Xerxes guy has been bought. He scored the last game. What's he doing on the bench? Garnacho as well. I just don't get it. I don't understand what he's doing.
What I would say, though, just to give you a little bit of context to that. So, Xerxes came in with an injury and isn't match fit yet. And what I will say I will defend Ten Hag in this regard. What he did too often last season, and he did it with, turned out he did it with Lenny Yoro, is the doctors are like, not fully match fit yet. Fine, we'll play him. If he plays Xerxes and he pulls something and he's out for 3 months, Man United fans will go, and rivals will slam the manager for not playing him when he's fit. So I can understand that. The goals we conceded were individual errors. What I would say has looked better in the opening 3 games this season is that we've been a much harder team to play through. That has improved, in my opinion. But the first goal we conceded was just typical Maguire. First of all, doesn't clear the ball that comes across him. And he's maybe done this about 15 to 20 times in a United shirt. He was in the right position. And then he did this weird thing where he jumped into the wrong position just before they crossed the ball. If he just stood where he was, it would have been the most simplistic clearance. And I don't know if we'd have lost the game because we were in complete control. We hadn't had enough chances, but we're in control of the game at that point. We actually would stop in Brighton from playing football. We conceded that goal. A bit of nervousness. Again, second half started doing well. We got a goal, dominated, got close to a second, or unlucky with a goal. And then I watched it back about 5 times now. In the desperation to try and win, all the players have flooded out the box to try and be ready for our own counter, and they've just made an individual mistake. That, for me, the only time I'll go on the manager for those 2 mistakes is if heads don't roll. And I think that, for me, is where I expect the likes of Dan Ashworth to run the club. Like in all of our jobs, if you fuck up, you expect your manager to come in and say, look, your staff messed up. What have you done? Like, what are you doing to Maguire to ensure that you're maintaining standards within him, because he can't be doing that? The answer should be he's getting fucking dropped. Like, if Maguire starts the game against Liverpool, that's where I'm going to start questioning the manager. And if the manager keeps making those mistakes week in, week out, then I look at the board and say, why are you letting the manager continue to make these very, very, very obvious mistakes? So I have seen some improvements, but where I agree with you is we need to get a lot better. I can handle these mistakes, but what we've seen from Ten Hag, what we saw from Ollie, we saw from Jose, is that we need this favoritism to go, where actually you've made that mistake, somebody else is getting an opportunity. Now, if you have 20, 30 great games on the bounce and then make a mistake, fair enough, you don't lose your first team place. But it's not, I don't know, this is not Maguire's first rodeo, is it, when it comes to making those types of just weird, the compilations are just weird. He does it all the time. He jumps, he's in the right position, and it's almost like he second guesses himself. And yeah, I don't know. But yeah,
I think the footballing men you've got in charge, I think, will pull the plug on Ten Hag, and they'll give Ruud van Nistelrooy the job. Or if it isn't him they want, they'll bring Tuchel or someone like that in. I don't know. I just don't think Ten Hag is going to last. I just don't think he's good enough. 14 L's in the league. That's just too long, man, last season. I don't see it getting much better. But listen, I think the people you got in charge definitely will get it right. I just don't think it's going to be with Ten Hag. But that's just my opinion. Maybe Ten Hag is great and he'll go and get Champions League football. I don't know. But I don't see it.
One of Ten Hag's biggest issues is that the way he sets up his team is that it makes it so that there are these huge gaps in the midfield. And that's not necessarily an issue if you've got the right players there who can cover there. So, for example, if Declan Rice was in that United midfield, for example, I think you'd seen immediate improvement, because Ten Hag's football creates those gaps, but then Rice can defend those spaces. But the issue is when you've got like a midfield pairing of Casemiro and Mainu, and I'm the biggest Mainu fan, that's not necessarily his greatest strength. He needs to be partnered with someone who can cover his weaknesses. And maybe, I haven't seen enough of Ugarte, but as I understand it, his key strength is covering those big spaces. So I think that if I was a United fan, I think I'd be reserving judgment until Ugarte starts, alongside Mainu or whatever, then going, right now, are we going to see a midfield improvement, I think.
And that's where, again, it's not even about defending Ten Hag. It's about not throwing my toys out the pram just yet and waiting. Is that this is what I expect a footballing board with footballing people to do, is go, right, well, the manager system works, but like every system in the world, it needs the right players. Pep's system wouldn't work if he had 5 or 6 players of Scott McTominay's level in the team. It just wouldn't. He needs he needs the technical quality. Equally, one thing about Pep's teams that I never think gets enough praise is the physicality needed to get back into shape when you lose the ball. That's why Pep's teams, in my opinion, have always been so amazing. It's the quickness they win the ball back or get back into shape. But you can't do that if you've got players if you've got too many players that can't cover ground, because it becomes physically impossible. But there's a super chat here actually that says, Terry, PSG sold a guy who flopped for the exact same money they bought him for. When they didn't, 10 million euros less is what we're paying. They bought him for 60 million fixed fee. We bought him for 50 million fixed fee. Nothing impressive about that, mate. And this is the thing. I understand that challenge, and I'll stay reserved on it. I'm not going to sit here and fight it. I'm going to say, that's your opinion, Eddie. We'll put it out there. I do believe in horses for courses. I do believe that sometimes you can just sign a player that doesn't work at your football club. It doesn't necessarily make them a bad football player. If I look at United, we once upon a time signed Diego Forlan. Just didn't cut it for us. Go look what he did before and after. There's Veron, and I'm giving you Man United examples. So if it can work, and Thierry Henry is a prime example of where it worked the other way. There's been a number of players who have tried first, failed, moved on, and then been great. They're a little bit young, but you could kind of put the Mo Salahs and the KDBs into that mix in terms of their first stint at Chelsea, and then what they went on to do afterwards. So I do get the challenge, but I think there's multiple examples of where a change, and again, the right system and the right team can work for you. I don't watch enough of PSG to understand it, but a lot of people have said that about De Ligt joining us, barring the Bayern Munich fans who are absolutely fuming that he's been allowed to leave. So it's one of those interesting things, but we'll see what happens with it.